There's nothing wrong with your screen, just more Chris antics. You know, people always ask me if Chris is an actual person or not.
And you are in a dark room.
I am
very dark room.
technologically challenged.
Marco is broadcasting from a black hole.
Oh, you can't see me?
No.
Okay, well, let's get started anyway. So this week in podcasting, in Tech React world, by the way, if you want to get some more news, go to our site, techreact.com, where we aggregate all the news to do with enterprise IT. So we had quite a bit of news this week. Steve, why don't you start us off?
Well, I think the two big stories of the week, we start out Monday with HP saying they were finally going to split themselves into a PC printing business and then an enterprise business, and then closed on Friday with Symantec saying they were going to split themselves into a security and storage business. Yeah.
So,
in with a bang, out with a bang.
So let's talk about HP first. So HP is splitting up into two. So the printer business is the profitable one, right? So I was looking at the some old financials for them. I think they're saying that 65% of their profits are coming from the printer business.
Wow.
I think that's true. I think that was the problem. You know, they tried to do this, or they were pressured to do this by investors when Mark Hurd was there, and they didn't want to break it off because I think it was really, you know, driving the bottom line for the business.
So the ink business is very high on their list. Is that part of the printer business too?
Yes.
So printers. Do you guys still see them being prevalent in the marketplace with printers? I mean, I know that they're doing that managed print for enterprise, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I do personally. I don't think HP's going anywhere in the printer space. I think they make a very good product. You know, they're pretty much still the de facto standard for the most part.
I wonder if that's just them trying to sell the business off.
Could be.
I don't think you want to sell it, but I think that they can see the decline of printing in general. Right? You know, I mean, when I joined my startup, well, it was 3 years ago, but when I joined the company, it was 2 weeks before I found out we even had a printer.
Right, but
Yeah.
But that's a really good point.
I mean, how often do you print something?
Well,
often do you read something?
I read all the time.
Okay, good. Just checking.
about handhelds and tablets usually. I mean, I know recently we just moved to a new space over at Push Technology in New York, and we're part of this office space that uses this pay-per-click printing system. Have you guys ever used that before?
Oh boy.
No.
So basically, you've got a little thing on your computer, on your desktop, and it's different for every OS pretty much. So you click on this thing, and this little icon pops up, and you kind of save your password and code into it, and then you go to the printer section to go pick up your print job. Right? It's pretty simple. It took me like 2 hours to get this frickin' thing working the first time. It was crazy. I was like, it was like something out of a comedy act. I was like running all the way around. I had to use the scanner and scan something into this multifunction unit, and then I had to print something else out to send off to our office in London. And I was like literally running down the hall, running back the hall, running down the hall, back and forth like 15 times to see like, did it print yet? And I keep going back. Did it print yet? It was like crazy. Everything was being held in queue. After that one experience, of course, I figured it out. But still, that shows how often I print stuff.
So that's interesting.
I haven't dug into the financials of this split yet. I think they've said that they're going to split it into two equal $56 billion companies. But I suspect that it's a combination of the PC and printer business just to make their PC business a viable public entity, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but I see that if I see a decline in things that I see in the corporate office space, it's kind of the HP PC/laptop.
Well, no, I don't see that.
You don't see
I
that?
see a
No,
lot of their
because-
laptops in the corporate
yeah.
world, personally.
Yeah.
In fact, there's only two companies building desktops and laptops right now, which is HP and Dell.
Yeah.
I come across some Samsungs and I come across some of the wackadoodle stuff.
Yeah, but what about Lenovo? Well, they're still pretty big. There's a lot of ThinkPads out there still.
Yeah, I see a lot of Lenovo.
Right, but Lenovo,
I see a lot of Lenovo and Dell. Yeah.
Right, so Lenovo's got a great laptop. The problem with Lenovo is they're very difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Lenovo just bought for our theme of splits today. The deal's finally done and went through, and the employees are migrating over the last couple of weeks. They just literally bought IBM's x86 server business.
Now I know that, which is that's going to be an issue for them because Lenovo being a Chinese company, a lot of people are migrating away from those boxes as they're being manufactured because of all that, that security stuff going on.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Those hackathons.
I thought if it's made in China or Korea, we're good.
Well,
Yeah.
Put it in our corporate data centers, Pentagon, everywhere. What difference does it make? There's no way to control it.
Find something that's not made in China. Find a server that's not made in China. And all the
I don't think it matters where the server's made. What matters is where the boards are made that are inside of it. And no matter where it's made, most of the boards are made from these ODMs in inland China. So or mainland China. So I think that's half the problem.
Here's some stats for you guys just to mull over for a second. So
Would
HP
you
Inc.
give us some stats, please? Where is
Let me
it?
give you some.
We
Let me give you some.
We need a jingle. We need a jingle for the stats. Okay.
We're back on
We do
Mondo,
need a
I'm telling
jingle. Yeah. Here's some stats according to the Wall Street Journal. HP Inc., which is the printer personal systems business, is from a revenue standpoint 41% printing, 59% personal systems, with an operating profit of $5.4 billion. So that's notebooks, desktops, mobility, printers, and print services. And then HP Enterprise, which will be the new spin out. Meg Whitman's going to stay in charge of that.
Yeah, so you know that's where the money is, right? Because
Yeah.
I'm going to step down, guys, and I'm just going to go over here to this other company.
Yeah, so they're $58 billion in revenue, 39% enterprise services, 48% enterprise group, 6% financial services. So I got to assume that's however they're financing, their leasing of other equipment. Servers and storage, and then 7% software with an operating profit of $6 billion. So it's networking, servers, storage, cloud, and software.
So is the printer business taking over the services part? Like the old EDS stuff. Where's EDS going in all that mix?
That's the services, from what I can say.
Yeah, it's got to be the enterprise services
So is that part of the new one or the old one?
as part of the Meg Whitman.
Okay, so that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll put the article here so everyone can see it. Yeah, which I think is interesting. I think that they struggled for years to get their consulting business after the EDS acquisition to do anything.
So do we know where HP Cloud sits?
They said it's on the enterprise side.
All right, so that's the assets that are going over to Meg Whitman's group. Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's got to be where the Helion Cloud is. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's interesting because then that would mean that.
I teed this one up for you, Marco, last week.
No, go ahead. You finish it up.
No, go ahead. That's why I teed it up. I knew you were going to say something.
Nope, go ahead. It's all yours.
Oh, I don't need to take it.
All right, somebody say something, damn it.
Basically, right. You have the cloud over there too. So where's all the hardware going to come from that's powering that cloud, right?
Same company.
Dell is going to be the new provider.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to find Dell hardware sitting in there, I don't think.
No.
Well, the Azure is all HP stuff, isn't it?
I think it's got a lot of HP. Yeah.
I don't know if it's all HP, but there's a hell of a lot of it, from what I understand.
Yeah. So it's really interesting. So they took all the good stuff in this other company and all the commodity stuff in the other company.
Yep. Absolutely. Right, and so the question is, why do that? I mean, are they really that much better off split, do you think? And what does it do for you as a consumer? As an enterprise consumer, now you got to deal with two companies instead of one. Right.
I think at the end of the day, it's about nothing more than longevity of the company and valuations, and profits. I think that's all it is. I don't think they really care about the enterprise consumer. Not that HP doesn't care, period, because that's obviously their bread and butter. But I think they've made a decision somewhere that it makes more sense to split these businesses.
Yeah. So I had a lot of discussion when I was out at Gartner Sim this week about this and the Symantec one, and really a lot of the scuttlebutt was, and there's another CIO article in the Wall Street Journal. I'll see if we can find it and post it. Where a lot of CIOs came out and said, well, this was inevitable for HP to do this because they've been struggling for so long to stay relevant in the enterprise, and they're going to have to do this. But even with this, can they make it? Can they make this work? And how much disarray does splitting into two companies this size create? I mean, it's two $56 billion companies. That's going to take time for them to unwind. It's going to take a lot of internal resource, take their focus away from the market. Let's put quotes around that. It may or may not do that, but what do you guys think about that? What does it do to them? Right? I mean, my experience is it takes 18 to 24 months to split a.
That's right. So that's the first thing that was an interesting point to me. How long will it take for them to do this?
Yeah. Yeah. I can't remember what the timeline was.
Although this one is
by November 2015 is what they're saying they're shooting for.
Yeah, but this one's all internal, so it's not going to be as bad as bringing in another company. And they know what they're doing. That they do a lot of this company stuff. Although I'm still waiting for them to integrate Compaq.
Yeah. And digital, and the Compaq guys to integrate digital.
Chris, remember those guys?
Yeah. I used to have a lot of Compaq computers. I really liked them.
That's all that was there.
Yeah.
It was down in ASD.
Wasn't that when laptops weighed like 15 to 20 pounds? Something like that?
What's that?
I'm looking at a global market share chart I just shared in the chat window, and it says that HP has 44%. The nearest competitor is Canon at 26%, Epson at 16%, and Brother at 13%.
Wait, what does that mean?
As for the printers?
Global printer market share.
Yeah, but I think that from what Steve is saying, it's really not a global printer or anything, right? It's more of a services versus commodity.
Right. So, being cloud hosting would probably be a very profitable thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you can get anybody to use your cloud.
But I wonder if those clouds from HP, Dell, some of the, not that they're third tier, because they're obviously not third tier companies, but those companies that are not, let's call them Amazon, I wonder if they're actually getting any traction.
I don't know. I mean, that's the question, right? I mean,
I don't know anyone hosting with them.
I don't either, right? You got Cisco trying to get into this business. You got Oracle, who just announced their cloud at Oracle World. These guys splitting themselves into effectively what's going to be a cloud and services company, right? Where are they getting traction? Are they really able to pull the market share away from Amazon and Azure and Google? It just seems unlikely.
That ship has sailed.
Yeah.
Current cloud computing services market leaders: Amazon, Google, VMware, Rackspace, Salesforce.
Yeah, and Rackspace, I think, Rackspace, I think, is in trouble.
Yeah, I think they're in trouble too.
Yeah, it seems.
Yeah, I think they need to merge.
HP doesn't make HP, according to this list I've got from market research, Transparency Market Research. HP doesn't even make top 10.
Yeah.
Well, because they're not even a service provider. Are they really a service provider?
Right.
Well, they're trying to be.
Yeah, they would like to be.
But before HP, AT&T's cloud is a much better cloud. They just don't have that kind of customer. They don't have the kind of customer that says, "I want to be on your cloud." I mean, how many people do you know are on HP cloud?
I don't know anybody, but I mean, I think the whole cloud play is there's the service aspect of it where you have a vendor like an Amazon that has a network that comes in from tons of different providers, and they provide you just this infrastructure as a service play, right? And then you've got the carriers, like your Terramarks and which is Verizon obviously, and your AT&Ts that own their own big chunks of network. So it's kind of a different use case, right? If you're a financial services firm and you need to basically connect your stuff together with fiber links, or where you're basically buying your own thread of fiber from someone, then you're going to want to or have to put your environment inside of one of these mega carriers. If you're just building an app that you're sticking out there, you can put that inside of more of a public type of cloud service. And then, of course, there's a whole security rules that go around that too. But it's very different, right, compared to, you look at it, and I just described two different types of use cases. Where do the HPs and Dells fit into that? It's like which one of these things doesn't fit? It's those guys.
Yeah.
I don't know if that made any sense. To me, it did, but
it was pretty. That's, yeah.
I think that this whole business, forgetting about cloud for a second, I think that the whole business that they're trying to provide is the business of IT enterprise services. Forget about cloud for a second.
Right, but you need a cloud to do that. That's the argument there.
You really don't. I don't think you really do. I don't think you need a cloud if you want to be an IT services company.
I mean, there must be somebody in the HP or one of these, hardware vendors, boardrooms that had the idea, well, if we build our own cloud, we're going to sell so much more hardware. Hardware.
I think he's trying to say hardware.
I think he is too.
Why this whole split's taking place? Does anybody hear that? Does anybody hear that big sucking sound right now? That's their cloud. As they're just pulling money out of the organization.
Yeah.
It's just it has to be. That's why these splits are taking place with some of these orgs.
So, Steve, can you follow up on HP for next week?
I'll follow up on HP for next week.
You were talking about the Gartner meeting. I think you talked about Orlando Gartner meeting last week.
Yeah, the CIO symposium.
What did you get out of it?
It's generally a pretty good conference. A lot of it's high level thought about where the market is going. I mean, the theme of the whole thing was digital business and how the CIO is going to play a part and what part they're going to play in helping their corporate organizations become and drive to a digital business.
So is that like digital marketing? Is that what they're talking about?
Yeah, it's digital marketing. It's CIO versus CMO versus CDO, so Chief Marketing Officer, Chief Digital Officer, right? What's going to happen with the Internet of Things? All of that, all of those transformational things that are coming down the pipe.
Right, but so that's interesting. So what I noticed was that I don't think that the CMO-CIO discussion is relevant.
I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't see it as much.
I don't know. I kind of disagree with you guys on that. I mean, CMOs are deploying more stuff in IT right now than CIOs are. They have budget.
That's a broken discussion. That's like saying that the financial services business trading floor is putting out more stuff than the IT, because it's all. What I think is happening, I think that the CIO is going back into a support role. And he's going to be in a support role. He's not going to be a business. Very few people are going to be business-oriented CIOs. I just don't see it.
Yeah, but aren't they working on setting strategy for the internal stuff at the organization?
But by the time the CIO gets it, right? Now, I shouldn't blanket this. This is not for the this is talking about the majority, okay? Because I know lots of CIOs that are very well entrenched in their business strategy. Most of them are working for the CFO controlling the IT budget.
That's correct.
Yeah, that I agree with that. That makes sense. But there's still part of what is the strategy that we're going to do to control that.
I don't believe that. I think that once you move to a role where you're reporting to the CIO, to the CFO, all you're doing is controlling cost. How much strategy, forward-thinking strategy, does a CFO actually do? He manages the output, but I don't see that piece.
And I think that that's a great point, Marco, and that was one of the big themes of the conference, which was, if you look at what, one, yes, most CIOs today still report into the CFO, and over the last 3 to 5 years, what have they been asked to do? Right? They've been asked to, as part of the downturn in the economy, control costs, reduce costs, right? Streamline operations, get efficient, and they're not the same guys, and they don't have the same mindset as somebody who's kind of coming up on the rebound of the economy with a CEO saying, "Hey, now we got to embrace this digital business. We got to get online, right? We got to do some forward thinking about how, the transformation in the digital economy is going to impact our business," and that's why they say that you see the rise of this chief digital officer, right? That's the guy who's getting empowered to make all of the change and do all the more forward and business thinking pieces of IT.
Right, but I think that, right, you're absolutely right, and Chris, this is your thing here, right? So, to me personally, there's a new role coming up, which is the digital marketing guy, right? Call him OC. The titles are. The difference with digital marketing, right? It's not sales. It's not marketing, and it's not technology. It's actually the infusion of those things to achieve a particular revenue goal.
Yeah.
Right? This is no different than any other business that has the roles that the people come in, and those roles that people bring for revenue.
I kind of think what we're seeing is a new movement into experience, a chief experience officer. And the concept there is it's a hybrid who's responsible for customer experience and for employee experience. And the concept is, regardless of how the customer interfaces with you, because there are now a dozen channels where they can talk to you. Not only hitting your brick and mortar, but how do they experience your advertising? Is your advertising cohesive across print, papers, and magazines, as well as video and online and offline and all that kind of stuff? So you bring the whole experience together and say, how what's the perception that the customer gets of the company across everything, and that transcends CIO and marketing, because it's infrastructure, and are they happy when they walk through the door, all that kind of stuff, and how do they interface with us, and what's their takeaway? And so I think that's where it's going to go. It's going to take a lot of companies a little while to get there, but
yeah,
that's what we're seeing.
So what types of companies do we think are going to be the early adopters, this type of organization? Because that's kind of where I was going with the discussion, is the fact that the whole digital side, marketing side, is because they're viewed as generating top-line revenue, they're getting more money. Even though they may not be, they're getting money for projects.
And that's where the discussion that Steve was bringing up about the CMO/CIO.
Yep.
And it is just merely a fight, because some guy is saying, "Hey, look, guys, you see my results?
Yeah.
Now get out of my way."
Here's the question, and
right.
I'm sorry, Marcus. So who owns the
No, it's
relationship
okay.
with vendors like Salesforce.com or Radiant6? Or you look at the tools that these.
Vendor management,
Yeah,
vendor management and sourcing. That's
that's
the issue.
yeah, that's where it's. I think that's where the rub is. That
That's
stuff
where
is
I was getting
shifting
at.
to the procurement side of the organization.
Which are just the reverse of salespeople, by the way.
Yeah,
All those sourcing
Exactly.
guys are just salespeople that are making like a reverse commission. Their commission, or whatever it is, or bonus, whatever you want to call it, I'm
MBOs.
seeing across the industry, right, are based on a misalignment of the need. And they're saying, I'm going to be with a $10 million contract. Every time I take a slice of that $10 million contract, the bonus goes in my mind. So the sourcing guy comes in and goes, it's a $10 million contract. You get it to $8 million, which means that I get a $2 million quota,
hmm
right? But
yeah,
that's the issue. What I see happening, and Chris probably can see more of this than I do. What I see happening is there's a new role of somebody who's going to bring in revenue into the enterprise, and that person needs a new set of technology tools.
yeah,
I think you've got to look at it holistically. You can't look at just the technology, and that's where the CIO is losing traction, because it isn't just technology. It's everything. If you deploy a bunch of tablets in your brick and mortar store for people to process orders, like Nordstrom's tried that. They would let you. They had a card swiper on an iPhone. And they would let you buy the thing right there. But then they had to go back over to wherever the hell the cash register was to get you a bag.
yeah.
And so it was like, duh, kind of a thing.
I know you haven't been in an Apple store, but I think Apple's got that figured out, right? I can walk into an Apple store, buy anything that I want, and walk out with it.
Right.
And they know that I've paid for it.
And I think, I'm moving to San Francisco, and when I get there, all the retail, with the exception of food delivery, you want a bag, you buy one. And so you're going to walk into the store carrying your own bag. And, that's going to solve the problem. And, there's a bunch of different ways to kill that. But the challenge is, how do you move your company from that? Because that's one interface. If the customer is Facebooking you or is tweeting at you or something like that when they get home and they say, gee, the zipper broke, or I just opened the delivery that you sent me, my problem is UPS is always leaving stuff or not leaving stuff because there's no signature. How do you resolve that?
Right.
And all that rolls into the experience for the customer. And large chunks of that are way, way outside of what the CIO does. And the marketing officer has a better perspective of that. But he's got to get broader authority, not just for the marketing stuff. He's got to be able to cross the lines, and that's where it's CIO as well as the VP of operations, and all that.
Or your COO.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's where experience comes in. Is thinking about it holistically across everything, every touch point the customer has with the organization.
So, going back to the CIOs versus CMO, I just don't see that their fight is any different than than any other one of their branches. I see that fight every single time between the CIO and any business unit. Steve, don't you see the same?
Yeah, I mean, it is a constant fight that the CIO struggles against, right? How to be part of the business, how to enable the business, right? I don't know. I think the shift and the sticky point for the CIOs now are can they shift fast enough out of the mindset they've been operating in for the last few years and get back into more of a strategic role.
Okay, guys, how about if we call it a day for tonight?
Sounds good.
All right.
If you want to follow us a little bit better, you go to techreact.com, TECHREACT.com, where we aggregate the news from the enterprise from all over the web into one place. If you want to follow me, I'm Marco Junta on Twitter. David, you are?
DS Levin on Twitter.
And Chris?
See Keefe on Twitter, KIEFF.
And Mr. Webster?
I'm move the number 2 the cloud.
So if you want to get the latest news, which I enjoy so much, just follow Mr. Webster because he tweets every 3.5 seconds. Next week we'll be talking about more stuff. Join us every Sunday morning live. I see there's a couple of viewers out there. Join us every Sunday morning at 9 o'clock or whenever Chris gets his camera working.
Yeah.
I think they mandate his camera to work once he gets to California, so he could be in trouble if it's not working.
I bet it's going to work perfectly when he's out there for some funny reason.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe I'll get a... I see Chris going out there and becoming either a Chromebook guy or Apple guy in about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Apple. That'll happen.
Okay. Famous last words. All right, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us.